Yes.
Great. Thanks, John. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Sandy. Welcome, Keith. I'm Lois Findlay, a treasurer on the board of BikeAAA, and you obviously know John Corn, our president. As a board, we decided to do some webinars on different topics, and this is actually the first time we've done one on how to engage and volunteer and advocate with us. And when we were thinking about how we wanted to structure this presentation, we were thinking about the fact that there are various levels that you can get involved in at sort of an engagement, up to a volunteer, even up to an advocate level. But there's also 4 areas that we're going to cover in our presentation. So in addition to the fundamental advocacy that we do on improving transportation policy, infrastructure, and legislation, we also have program areas for events that we either sponsor or we encourage other cyclists to join or help run. We have our safety education program, particularly aimed towards children and bike helmets. And then we do sponsor some infrastructure as well. So the agenda for this presentation, we'll go through really the levels of involvement with a major focus on advocacy, which John will speak to in a little bit. So, and just a couple slides introducing, I know you're both aware of BikeAAA and our mission. We've listed some of the highlights, how we were founded as part of a Leadership and Arundel project team, which John was on. We're of course the 501c3 nonprofit, so we can raise charitable funds separate from the government appointed County Bicycle Advisory Commission, which was created under County Executive Steve Hsu, and John is the original president of that as well, but they are separate entities. And then we highlighted some of our programs, but moving on to our membership. You also may be aware that members of any of the 5 clubs shown here, Annapolis Bike Club, Velocity, Severna Park Peloton, the Annapolis Tri, or Annapolis Bike Racing Team, they join as groups and they pay a group, the clubs pay a group fee, and that automatically makes all of their members our members through that group fee. So including all of those folks and the folks who've joined us directly, we're over 1,000 members. And we've got nearly 2,000 in our followers, I guess, on our Facebook group, and we do maintain a separate email list.
And I'm sure you're both getting emails from us. Pretty sure. The one went out on Friday.
Yeah. Yep. I get them.
Yeah.
My turn. So engage, and you both are engaged. So this is not really for you. This is really sort of intended for people that are new to us, just how to get involved. Make sure you're on our email list. And sometimes they have a lot of stuff in them. We encourage people to really go through, click through to places where there's a call to action, a public comment, or show up to a meeting and so forth. And again, you two are engaged. I'm well aware of that. Our Facebook group, you two are both active on. One of our messages is to be an exemplary cyclist. We know there's bad behavior on bikes, whether on road or on trail. So we want folks that are connected to us to set a good example and encourage others to do so. Occasionally on the trail, if somebody blows past me, I'll just in a friendly voice, I'll do like a, hey, please announce. If I see somebody blow through a red light, like up at Jumpers Hole Road or one of the signalized crossings, if I get a chance, I'll just say, hey, you're not helping the cause when you behave like that. So you've got to be comfortable with sort of how assertive you want to be in that. You two, again, a really great example. So many of our members, so many that are connected to us, almost exclusively ride for recreation. And we really want to encourage more and more riding for transportation. And again, knowing you both, Keith relies on a bicycle as essentially his sole means of transportation, as I understand it. Yeah, and Sandy is trying to do as much as she can with safety and bike parking and so forth as constraints, and encouraging her family members to do as much as they safely can. So here again, I know I'm preaching to a choir of two in this, but again, you get the message. We get so many folks who just love to ride, but they're only in their spandex on their road bikes, and they rarely, if ever, ride for transportation. Alone or in big groups. Some people just love to ride alone, some in small groups, informal. People that are interested in starting to do more distances, the clubs can be really helpful in that. So
John?
we do, yep.
Just a question about that, the recreation, fitness, and groups. So in the previous slide about the different groups that those individuals are automatically then members of BikeAAA, are those primarily recreation and fitness groups? Is that
all of them are?
Yeah. So, I think that's where as transportation riders are at a disadvantage, is there isn't a formal group of us that get together and say, hey, let's all go to the store.
Right. It's true. And it's true of pedestrians too. Pedestrians are not organized because on some level, the majority of the population is a pedestrian at some time or another, and they're just not organized. And so BikeAAA and the Bike Commission, while neither of us have sort of official roles with pedestrians, we do advocate, of course, for any means of active transportation.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
And I see my friend Nigel watching on Facebook just posted, hey, what's wrong with spandex?
Nothing if you look good in it.
Nigel, we think you look cute in spandex. So attend events. And again, I know you all are all in. And when I say you all, I'm counting Nigel in that too, now that I know he's lurking on Facebook. And we're open to your ideas for other ways to engage with us. You can see the next slide, there's sort of a buildup of you get a little more involved, a little more connected, and then actually volunteer, and then actually advocate. So you'll see this progression. So I'm going to continue on, and actually I'm going to turn this back to Lois now.
So John and I kind of brainstormed all the different ways you could potentially volunteer that and really just be involved with all of our activities. And most of these tend to fall in one of those three program areas I mentioned: bike safety education, infrastructure, events, as opposed to the advocacy side. So we came up with a fun name for potentially a new role, a Blazing Saddles coordinator. And it was the idea of just organizing a couple rides a year, just open group rides, to encourage people to come and ride on a trail in the county that they haven't been on. For example, I've not ever even been to the WB&A trail. And I'll go just to see it, just because I'm curious to see what it looks like. So that's definitely a possibility, and we would encourage anyone who might be interested in doing that. We would support you. And really, for all of the roles on this page, we would ask that you basically register or you sign up so that you fill out an email that we'll show you at the end. That'll come to me and John, and we'll make sure to give you some guidance and direction, and then support through our social media and our calendar and all. Bike to School Day is another potential option if you're somebody who, particularly if you have children in elementary or middle school primarily, you could advocate on behalf of your school if you've got a strong connection there, or if you really want to be a superhero, you could potentially coordinate the efforts at multiple schools for Bike to School Day. I believe it's the first Wednesday in May. It's a national event. Other events that you could potentially volunteer for is on our list. I put the ones that are actually coming up this year. Some obviously Bike to School, Bike to Work Day have already passed. Some of them we organize, and so then you would be volunteering and registering with us. Some we just encourage you to attend because it supports bike culture. And Kenzie Rose Triathlon, just as an example, is it's been in August. I actually apologize, I don't know the date this summer, but we have a partnership with them where they actually support Lifeline 100, and then we've been able to help them with volunteers at their event, which is a youth triathlon at Kinder Farm Park. Wheels of Hope volunteer, I gather Keith knows all about that. So we have a facility at inside of Anne Arundel County Food Bank in Crownsville, where we've got actually a warehouse and a work area, but then people can actually take bikes home to work on as well. And you'd be refurbishing or sometimes building a new out of a box bike. And we sometimes need help transporting them as well. And then John and I came up with some new roles that would be new to BikeAAA, actually, kind of some coordinator or lead roles. We could use a dedicated volunteer to help manage our annual calendar of events on our website. And the events would include ours, meetings and events we run, as well as other events of interest to cyclists. We could potentially use a communications lead that would coordinate a messaging strategy, and then actually putting together and sending out the emails that John mentioned earlier, the list that you are all on. That's actually, we email through the Bike Maryland email list currently. Even potentially coordinating our Facebook and our blog posts and press releases occasionally. We could definitely use help with a new member and or a volunteer lead that would work with the board on welcoming new members, maybe helping initiate them in events like this, and finding out their volunteer interests and how they might be willing and able to engage with us. And then lastly, we came up with a few, we call them tracker roles, and they're all related to advocacy. So John will touch on that in just a little bit. The next slide is a summary of Wheels of Hope. If you're just not familiar with it, if you haven't been to the warehouse, that picture in the upper right is a little bit of an older picture. We do also, under Wheels of Hope, not only do we take in bikes to refurbish and give to folks in need, underserved children, and folks in sober homes, et cetera, but we also sometimes we'll either sponsor a bike rodeo or we'll help out at one, and we'll give away helmets, particularly new helmets, particularly to kids. So we've got a program, we participate in a grant to get children's bike helmets, and we also buy them. And we have a few events a year where we distribute children's helmets. And we try to do, whenever we have an opportunity, we try to be there in person to actually fit the helmet on the child and encourage their parent or guardian to have them wear it. So. And then the next slide is just a smattering of different events, photos from events. Again, Lifeline 100 and Bike to School Day, Bike to Work Day in the lower left, things that we would either organize or be very directly involved in. And of course, Ride of Silence is one of our events. But then other events in the area, we try to promote on our Facebook page and through our emails, just to help support biking culture in the county. John, you're muted.
Thank you. Thanks, Lois. So yeah, I'll pick it back up here. So when we start thinking about advocacy, I like to think of it as an ecosystem, because there's really just about nothing that BikeAAA does on its own. Almost everything we do, whether it's an event or trying to get infrastructure or a policy change or plans, et cetera, almost everything we do with partners. And those partners range from the bike clubs that we talked about, government, and here I mean all levels of government, City of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Maryland State Government, MDOT, SHA, the state legislature, and even our federal government and representatives. A lot of that we do through our sister advocacy groups. So at the state level is Bike Maryland. At the national level, the primary one is League of American Bicyclists, is also People for Bikes. Employers, especially health services, we've partnered with Anne Arundel Medical Center, with BW Medical Center, and so forth. So we start thinking about advocacy, first thing I like to lay out is just this really, really broad range of organizations that we work with, businesses, not the least of which would be the retail centers, Sandy, that you're trying to enlighten, I'll say. So when it comes to infrastructure, and by the way, we did a member survey, BikeAAA member survey. You both may have participated in that and get a sense of priorities. And the top priority among the members that responded was infrastructure, more safe infrastructure, certainly with a bias for separated infrastructure, meaning trails or protected lanes. And infrastructure always frustratingly takes a long time. And part of it is just because of the process that it goes through from a plan. So for example, you guys know we have the walk and roll long range bike ped plan underway, an update underway. Things often start there, as sort of germ of an idea. Then a study is done, feasibility study, an assessment of alternatives. If we're looking at, gee, what would be the best way to get a route from, I'll use a real world example, Odenton to BWI, where with significant gaps and a significant residential and commercial growth area for the county. Studies have been done to assess alternate routes and try to figure out where can we get right of way, which will serve the most people, which will connect to the most destinations, which is safest, etc. From there, we go into design, and there are different levels of design, from a 15% design, 30%, 60, 90%, and then full design, which is what's needed to prepare construction RFP documents. And then finally an RFP goes out and construction begins. So it's quite an arduous process. Much of it is grant funded, and that adds layers of bureaucracy, which on the one hand, it's great that we're able to get money. On the other hand, it just makes it take longer. And the Patuxent River Bridge crossing, for which we have a groundbreaking ceremony finally on Friday, is was a super high priority project for the region, but has just taken forever. It's just been fraught with delays and missed expectations of dates. So part of our role as advocates is to be a catalyst to try to press this along throughout the process. So I just like to give that as background for folks that want to engage in infrastructure. But there are also other areas where advocacy really makes a difference. So there are projects like the infrastructure projects that I just talked about. Developments. A lot of times, if there's a plan for either a residential development, a subdivision, or a commercial development, office, retail, industrial, etc., sometimes there's an opportunity to get some infrastructure added during the development process. And so one thing to keep an eye out for, and you can do this either in your own area or any place in the county you're interested, is to keep an eye out for where these developments are happening. One local one here in Arnold, Sandy and Lois, Freshfields, which is a relatively small residential development, but it's right at the corner of near Shore Acres and College Parkway. It'll be really, really close to where the Broadneck Trail will be along College Parkway. There's lots of other controversy about that going in. There's a historic site, there's a historic graveyard, there's other concerns, land use oriented concerns. But if it goes in, it absolutely should have a connection to the Broadneck Trail, which would serve not only the new residents, but folks that live in adjacent communities who can use very comfortable neighborhood streets then to get to the trail. And so that's one example. Plans and policies, active now, walk and roll, Vision Zero, Move Anne Arundel was a couple years ago. The Land Parks Preservation, Recreation and Preservation Plan is the Rec and Parks Long Range Plan. Is just about to be adopted by County Council. That we weighed in and tried to give that a heavy trail focus. So there are lots of plans and policy areas that folks can get involved in. Funding, of course, we're in county budget cycle, city budget cycle. Also, we're fortunate that there's quite a bit for trails in there, and some for on-road bike lanes as well. But again, important to weigh in there. Legislation at every level, city, county, and state. We don't get that engaged in federal legislation, but we do to some extent via the League of American Bicyclists. I typically will attend their national symposium, and that almost every state in the nation will get a little contingent of state advocates to go visit every congressional and Senate office. Here in Maryland, we're very, very fortunate to have 2 senators, and I'll just say nearly all of our congressional delegation is very, very pro biking and walking. Boards and commissions, so not just like the bike commission, but there are others, or environmentally oriented commissions where this can make a difference. Land use, even the regional stakeholder committees that are underway now as sort of step 2 of the general development plan can have a big transportation is a front and center issue for all of them. So for Steve Miller, who Keith, you certainly know Steve. Sandy, I don't know if you know Steve, but he's on our board, runs our Wheels of Hope program. Steve is on the Region 4 SAC as an example. And then there are lots of others, your own HOA, or even a civic group or a faith-based group, where folks can just, in whatever forum, they can be the voice of safe biking and walking. And then employers, we'd like to have more bike-friendly businesses. The league, as I think has a rating system for bike-friendly communities. We achieved bronze here several years ago, city and county working together, but they have a similar rating system for bike-friendly businesses. And so it'd be great to get folks who work for especially larger companies, but small as well, to become the champions for that. So within each of those focus areas, there's a variety of roles that can be played. Some is just advocate or sort of citizen activist. Show up to the public meetings, weigh in with public comment when there's a through the county website, for example, public comment portal. I have seen from the inside, it really makes a difference. People show up and people weigh in. It nudges both staff and elected officials when they hear from the public. So it really makes a difference. A next notch up would be champion. So you could say, hey, that Freshfields development, I'm going to really jump on that, and I'm going to become the voice of safe biking and walking on that project. I'm going to track it. I'm going to notify other people of what's going on. Sometimes connecting with a local group like Arnold Preservation Council or Broadneck Community Council are very closely tracking developments in their areas. They can be tremendously useful. But again, they're looking typically at land use, a little bit of transportation, being a voice for safe biking and walking in those forums helps shape their positions. Next level up so champion we think of on an individual project. Tracker, and Sandy, we've talked a little bit about this. We'd love to, I'm doing a lot of it now, and I hear about things because of Bike Commission and all the contacts I have, but we'd love to have somebody take on a role and say, hey, I will track all the subdivision projects and pluck out the ones where we think there's some real opportunity for biking and walking, and I'll post that to the Facebook page. I'll put the public meeting on the BikeAAA calendar. I'll give people a heads up about key issues and positions that we would recommend they support. So sort of trackers on projects, on plans, on policies, city level, county-wide, within a particular region or area of the county, sort of whatever suits. What I've learned about volunteerism is you need to find that intersection between what needs to get done and what an individual cares about and has enough time to actually apply. So it, you know, it can be scoped to suit an individual. Another one, there's so much that because I've gone so all in on this, there's a lot that's between my ears and things get lost in that vacuous space that we're trying to get you know, a little more institutionalized. So one is contacts that we have for advocacy purposes, and so we, you know, we've considered this role of let's set up a kind of advocacy contacts list that we could put in a shared space. We have a Google Drive that the BikeAAA board uses to collect stuff that can be, of course, shared with others. So that's another potential role that we're looking at.
John, if I could just add.
Yep.
Back on that, sorry, back on that slide.
Sure.
So these, the tracker, we had brainstormed, you know, potentially 3, 4, or 5 different tracker roles. So it's not all one, it could potentially be multiple people. Same thing with the contact database. But really the idea is, you know, we're in basically our 9th year with John as our president the whole time. But like he said, he's all in, full-time, retired, but we want to be sure that the term used was institutionalized. We need to broaden the base of knowledge and documentation, because that's just part of sustaining our growth in the future. So we're really, frankly, looking to share the love a little bit and share the workload a little bit. And it's one of many areas, but it's a really important area for us to try to have, frankly, just a little broader base of volunteer support.
Well, I think that's critical to the overall long-term success of BikeAAA is for the outstanding work that John has done is to now, you know, build redundancy into it, to start training up, you know, those who will follow and continue to carry on, because none of us are going to continue doing this forever. And it just makes sense to have more leaders taking on smaller bites, so that nobody burns out and more gets done. It just, you know, that's the smart way to keep it going.
Well said, both of you. I'm feeling the two of you ganging up on me.
No, not at all.
No, you've done such a phenomenal job. You're going to be, you know, it's scary to say, hey, I'll help, because you've done such a phenomenal job. It's like, you know, but yeah, I'm looking for, you know, the right keyhole that I'm going to fit into that, you know, like you said, fits my interests and my time and where I think I can do the most good, because this is important. It's important to me. And I think, you know, watching the gas prices going up, I think it should become more important to more people soon.
Yeah, well said. So what I've got on the next slide, and you all may be familiar with some of this, but I was actually going to click through and just give you a sampling of what's out there. And this is certainly not an exhaustive list, but I just wanted to provide some, you know, sort of key locations for finding things. So I'm actually going to click on some of these. So for example, the county bike map. I don't know, Sandy, have you ever looked at this? Keith, have you ever looked at this? The county GIS, it has quite a lot of information. Let me pull it over here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've seen that one or not. Yeah, I think I have.
So I'm going to just zoom. Just want to show you what's here.
Yeah, I just looked at that one actually this week, last couple days.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into detail, but there's quite a lot here. It shows where all of the infrastructure, all of the existing infrastructure is, and what type it is: trail, protected lane, bike lane, sharrow, etc. What's in construction, what's programmed, which means it's in the county capital budget, and then what's planned, which means it shows up in a plan somewhere. And that gets to be a little bit wish list. Some of that will never progress, but it at least identifies it. And all of this, of course, is going to get a significant update as walk and roll is finished. But again, if you're looking at a new development, it's good to be able to go into this map and say, hey, oh, there's a new development going in Odenton up here. Let's take a look at what existing infrastructure there is, what planned infrastructure, and is there a connector that could be made. So the bike GIS, I think that's an important one to look at and get rid of that. Another one, capital projects. Now in Anne Arundel County, the Office of Transportation is relatively small. And it's mainly a plan with regard to bike and pedestrian and roads. It's a planning organization. It doesn't design, it doesn't build. All of that happens at Public Works. Now let me move this over where you can see it. They work closely with Public Works, but Public Works will actually manage, and these may be kind of small. I don't know if you can see them, but Andover Road, BWI to Odenton Trail study, the study I mentioned earlier, Duval Highway up in Pasadena that is getting a sidewalk study, Conway Road, where we will be on Friday, a significant study of Conway Road from Route 3 all the way to where the WB&A Trail is at Two Rivers. A study has been done. The study is calling for separated side path trail, if you will, along that stretch. So checking on these studies from time to time, and again, either countywide or in the area of interest, or where we know these gaps can be important. And then typically there will be public comment periods, like Jumpers Hole Road from Route 2 to Route 177. There's the public comment period on that one, I believe, is still open through maybe June 17th or so. We've posted about it at the Facebook group. I think I included in the recent email. So the capital projects list is an important place to engage as well. And then let's see, I'll just do maybe one or two other ones. The county Office of Transportation. Bring this over here where you can see it. So, here's walk and roll. That's in process. Sandy, thanks for coming to the one of the public meetings. Vision Zero that one's very close to getting an executive order to go into effect. Move Anne Arundel, which was adopted about 2 years ago and has a strong multimodal flavor. That's the overarching transportation plan for the county. So a lot of these are here, but this can be a good landing point for other initiatives in the county as well. And then I'm just going to do one more. Maryland Legislature. Maryland Legislature, you probably both know, it's a 90-day session, January through early April every year. But you can go to just sort of get a flavor of what's going on there. If you go out to the Maryland General Assembly site, if you click search, there's see the subject line, there's actually a subject called bicycles, and it will show you this of course is for the session that just finished a couple of weeks ago, but it'll show you all the bills. It shows 10 bills that were in the session that relate to bicycles. You can click through, see the language, what the status of it is, which committee it's assigned to, who the sponsor is, and so forth. There's a group of statewide advocates that convene almost weekly during session. We convene several times prior to session to sort of establish what our priorities are going to be, who's going to lead what, and that's all done sort of under the umbrella of Bike Maryland. I get very involved in that when session is underway. But there again, just weighing in with written testimony is fairly easy to do. Takes a little bit of just knowing how to do it, and with under COVID, a lot of that's been done virtually rather than in person testimony. You got to hit certain time windows to submit written testimony, but again, it makes a difference when citizens weigh in. So let me.
And it's an interesting experience. I've been down there with the Maryland National Federation of the Blind with my daughter, and it's a pretty interesting experience, but it's best to go with somebody who knows the ropes, because it's overwhelming just figuring out how things work down there.
No question about it. I mean, I get chills when you said that, because my mentor down there, who 15 years my junior, when I got started in this, Kim Lamphir, who was the advocate and was the voice of biking down at the legend, she showed me around. She said, okay, meet me at 10:15 at the sofa on the 3rd floor of this wing of the. Why? Because at that sofa, the people coming out of a certain committee that are on their way back to the office will be going by, and those are the people that we have to get to. And I mean, Kim just knew her way and knew and we go to that sofa, and like half the people going by are hugging her. And so yes, absolutely, you need a guide down there. I feel pretty comfortable now because I've been doing it for a while, but there's so much inside baseball and so much relation, and just knowing the inside of the process. So you're absolutely right, Sandy.
Yeah, and that's definitely an area that if you can tag, some people who like that kind of thing and are interested in it, to start building that knowledge base and broadening it so that other people know how it works.
Yep. And again, we rely on Bike Maryland. Bike Maryland typically will bring on a lobbyist during session. Have the last Kim, who I mentioned, passed away of cancer a few years back, and the Maryland Bikeways program was named for her. It's now called the Kim Lamphir Maryland Bikeways grant program. But we've had Jen Brock Cancellieri, who is excellent, cares about this cause, and we've not lost momentum these last couple of years. So then here we've got some links back to BikeAAA, and we've added some things. In fact, we added this briefing as something that everyone can see if they go to the how do I get involved page. They could actually click through this briefing. These links on both of this slide and the prior slide are live there. And so why don't I just go, I'm going to just go to bikeAAA.org real quick. Let me bring this over so you can see it on the shared screen. But if you go to get involved up here, you'll see here, we put this briefing so you can actually scroll through it, go all the way down to the bottom. You can get to these links. They're live there. We also beefed up the volunteer page with some of the roles that that Lois and I talked about. So again, you both, you know how to reach us. But for others, we have, for example, here, select the area you would like to help in. We've beefed this up some to reflect the roles that we talked about tonight. So Lois, what did we forget to say that we said we would say?
No, I think you got it. Just that you can also download the presentation off the website. You can find it on either the Get Involved page or the volunteer page. And you can download it so that you can keep it and have the links in it. And that just that last page. Yep.
So again, I'm going to thank, Keith, I know you've been working with Steve a lot. Back to when we didn't have space and we're doing it every 6 months at Ann Arundel Medical Center. So I know you're connected in with Wheels of Hope. Thank you for that. Sandy, we've talked about a variety of things, and you've gotten active on some things. And yeah, we're grateful that you both joined us tonight.
Oh, thank you for doing this presentation and, putting all this effort into figuring out ways to get more people involved.
We'll definitely be doing it again, Sandy.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Okay, we'll be talking to you soon. Keith,
All
any, I'm watching the chat, any questions, comments? Otherwise, I will look forward to seeing you.
We'll do it
Yeah,
again.
meet us
That's
too.
all right.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, no worries.
Let me tell you, we got, Lois was really the catalyst for this whole thing. And we got tremendous value just putting this together, defining some of these roles. So turnout is not the measure of success here. We achieved it just by assembling a lot of this, beefing up our website. So it's time well spent.
Yeah. I will be in touch when I figure out where I want to throw in a little more effort.
Yep, sounds good.
Great.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Keith. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Let's see, I'm gonna stop recording.
There we go.